I'm a fiction writer who studied traditional Chinese medicine. After dying suddenly, I transmigrated into the most neglected concubine-born daughter of the Prime Minister's household, just because our birth characters matched. The Emperor ordered me to marry the disabled Northern Frontier General as a joy-bringing bride to cure his illness. The northern borderlands were bitterly cold, plagued by food shortages and financial hardship, with the people living in misery. With the general now lame in one leg, the populace lived in constant fear, terrified they might lose their lives any day. On my first day of marriage, I discovered the general's leg could be cured. But the entire northern garrison general's residence was so poor it didn't have 2 coins to rub together. They couldn't even afford a single medicinal herb. So I rolled up my sleeves and went back to my old trade. Waking up to find the entire Great Jin dynasty's purchasing power had dropped 100-fold. A single tale of gold on me could buy the entire northern garrison prince's estate. At first, the people paid no attention, utterly fake, morally corrupt. Later, the people grew restless and impatient. You dare release it when it's still just an embryo. Author, don't tire yourself out, but don't slack off either. Forget it, forget it. Had I known you'd only update these 2 chapters today, I wouldn't have come. And just like that, I single-handedly propelled the northern frontier to become the top GDP region, giving the Great Jin dynasty one hell of a shock. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful stories every day. Now, the story begins. I died from staying up all night writing novels. When I opened my eyes again, I had transmigrated into the most neglected concubine-born daughter of the Prime Minister's household, Xie Yang. Xie Yang lost her mother at birth and grew up in a remote courtyard. By the time she barely reached 13, she became a target of envy for her striking beauty. Her siblings locked her with venomous snakes, forced her to sleep in the latrine, fed her pig slop, and slashed her face with knives. In the end, they confined her in an icy woodshed, leaving her to freeze to death. Pushing aside the ice-cold quilt stiffened by frost, I found the bronze mirror with my frostbitten hands. Xie Yang's face looked quite similar to mine. In my past life, I was considered quite a beauty, but Xie Yang's face was now covered in scars and pimples. At first glance, it was clearly a case of wind heat in the lung meridian and liver depression transforming into fire. Has that wretched maid woken up yet? A voice came from outside the room. I quickly scrambled back onto the bed just as the door was kicked open. Still alive? What a stroke of luck for you. Her identity automatically surfaced in my mind. The second wife of my father, sister of the cavalry general. The Northern Frontier General has returned victorious but is now crippled and on the brink of death. Your birth chart matches his. The Emperor has chosen you to perform the joyous wedding to ward off his ill fortune. Guards, take her away. The second wife smiled, looking at my face and clicking her tongue several times. With that ugly face of yours, I bet the Northern Garrison General would drop dead the moment he lays eyes on you. I touched my face, just some scars and pimples. With continued herbal treatments, improved diet, and regular exercise, they'd be gone in a month or 2. And yet, a general with a lame leg. My heart swelled with joy. I'd been racking my brains trying to figure out how to escape this hellhole of a ministerial residence. What a heavenly blessing it would be to marry the Northern Garrison General. No need to sacrifice myself, and I could leave the Prime Minister's residence. With an imperial decree, I was delivered to the Northern Garrison Prince's manor. Yet, before coming here, no one told me the Northern Frontier would be this desolate. 3 years of severe drought had left not a single grain harvested. Years of famine left the common folk sallow and emaciated, while soldiers were reduced to skin and bones. Yet it was this very army that guarded the northern frontier for the Jin Prince for 20 years. Stepping down from the bridal sedan, I had only 2 words to say: blind tyrant. Madam, the general refuses to see anyone. As his wet nurse, may I escort you inside? The wet nurse sighed inwardly. On the wedding day, the groom didn't come to fetch his bride. Instead, he sent the wet nurse. What bride could endure such humiliation? I cheerfully linked arms with her. All right, mother. I'll be in your care from now on, Tilda. Since the poor woman was already lame, I couldn't possibly be unreasonable about it. The wet nurse was taken aback. Then her eyes reddened. Pei Yuan is such a stubborn child. Can't see reason for the moment. He deserves a good spanking. When we get back, I'll give him a proper talking to for you. It's all right, I understand him. My feelings are 100% sincere. The wet nurse wiped away her tears. Prime Minister Xie formed cliques for personal gain. What a scoundrel, yet unexpectedly. His daughter was raised quite well. The northern frontier was poor, but not a single wedding tradition was omitted. Nearly all the common folk of the northern frontier came to the feast. Though the food and wine were meager, everyone ate until their faces glowed with satisfaction. I heard Madame Xie is a lucky star who brings blessings to our northern frontier. So the emperor hasn't forgotten about our northern frontier after all. Mommy, I want Madame Xie to come every day. Today's food was so delicious. Thanks to Madame Xie, I was nearly starving to death before she came. Walking from the banquet hall to the ceremonial platform, my face beneath the bridal veil burned with embarrassment. This is so mortifying. Pei Yuan didn't come for the wedding ceremony, and after a full day of exhausting travel, I just wanted to rest early. The maidservant led me back to the bedchamber. Pushing open the door, I was hit by the strong smell of alcohol inside. Get lost. On the bed lay a man bare-chested, covered in wounds, exuding an aura of lethal intensity, his brows and eyes brimming with defiance, especially those pupils dark and gleaming. And this was what the second madam called, nearly dead. A question mark slowly formed above my head. Why does he look so full of energy, like a little wolf cub, without bothering with him further? I made a makeshift bed on the floor with the new bedding my wet nurse had prepared. I lay down and fell asleep immediately. Pei Yuan froze momentarily, lowering his gaze to look at me lying on the ground, my breathing now steady. He had always been at odds with Prime Minister Xie. This northern campaign had left him with a wounded leg, and that Xie fellow seized the opportunity to bribe the imperial astronomer, actually betrothing his daughter to him. A conspiracy. Pei Yuan's eyes darkened. It must be a conspiracy. The first light of dawn broke. When I got up, I felt an unusually intense gaze upon me. Turning my head, I saw Pei Yuan sitting on the bed, staring at me with a dark expression. Pei Yuan seemed to have something wrong with his head. I got up from the ground, feeling unusually refreshed. In my past life, I spent my days learning acupuncture from my master and my nights staying up late writing novels. I rarely slept so soundly. Clapping my hands, I got up and, ignoring Pei Yuan's wary gaze, plopped down on the edge of his bed. I reached out and slapped my hand onto his leg. Outrageous. Pei Yuan stared intently at me. I ignored him and reached for his other leg instead. Xie Yang, you've got a death wish. Pei Yuan raised his hand, seized my wrist, and pressed it against my neck, his scorching breath burning against my earlobe. Move again, and I'll snap your arm right now. I met his gaze without flinching, utterly unafraid of his threats. The wrist he held twisted deftly, my slender fingers finding their way to his pulse point, a diagnostic touch. Your leg, looking for death. I can cure it. Pei Yuan froze for a moment, then let out a derisive laugh as if he'd heard the most ridiculous joke. Even the imperial physicians that damned emperor replaced couldn't figure it out. And you think you can? What could a girl who's just come of age possibly understand? He lowered his gaze, his usual arrogance fading as the flickering candlelight by the bedside cast shadows across his face. Was this another scheme? Did Xieji marry his daughter to me just to cure my legs? After a long while, he released his grip on my wrist. Go, the general's northern garrison is a bitter, desolate place unsuited for a delicate prime minister's daughter like you. Open your inner robe, let me see the wound. I remained unmoved. It's not that I'm particularly saintly. But Pei Yuan has guarded the northern frontier for the emperor for 20 years. Such a man couldn't be all that bad. A healer's compassion means I can't bear to see good people suffer. Are you incapable of understanding human speech? Pei Yuan narrowed his eyes and retorted. I knelt halfway down and gently unwrapped the gauze covering Pei Yuan's wound. Pei Yuan hesitated as if wanting to speak, but remained silent. I looked up and met his clear, bright eyes. Why aren't you crying out? Let's see what skills you've got. If you can't cure this general's leg, get the hell back to your prime minister's residence. I must say, of all General Pei's body parts, his mouth is undoubtedly the toughest. Pei Yuan's leg injury was clearly caused by delayed treatment of poisoning. Although the poison was later neutralized, it left his lower limbs paralyzed and weak. The treatment requires a combination of acupuncture, bloodletting cupping, and herbal fumigation baths, about 10 treatment cycles spanning 2.5 months. Can you see anything? Pei Yuan wore an expression of someone enjoying the spectacle. The poisoning is too severe, causing paralysis in the lower limbs. Give me 2.5 months. Pei Yuan raised his chin. 2.5 months. If you can't cure me, then get lost. How about that? I smiled. Deal. On the second day of our marriage, I changed my clothes and paid respects to my wet nurse. The Pei family had 3 generations of loyal and brave generals, all of whom sacrificed themselves for the country, leaving only Pei Yuan as the sole remaining heir. The wet nurse became Pei Yuan's only family in this world. Has Pei Yuan been bullying you? Before I could bow in greeting, the wet nurse quickly supported me. He's been like this since childhood. If you can't stand him, just hit him. He won't dare fight back. Thank you, mother. The Northern Prince's residence is not as comfortable as the Prime Minister's mansion. You've suffered since marrying here. I smiled and shook my head. I can cure Pei Yuan's leg, but we're still missing a few medicinal herbs. Could you send someone to purchase them? These also include medicine for treating my face. Consider it a bit of personal indulgence. The wet nurse was startled, then thought to herself, truly befitting a Prime Minister's daughter, so young yet already so accomplished. Very well, give me the prescription. I'll send someone to fetch the medicine immediately. My calligraphy looked like ghostly scribbles, but there was no time to worry about that now. I handed the pre-written prescription to the wet nurse. Her gaze suddenly stopped at my hands covered with chilblains. Studying medicine, it's normal to endure some hardships. I took the opportunity to withdraw my hands as I replied. The wet nurse was illiterate. Looking at the prescription made her head spin. Which servant wrote this? The handwriting is truly rather poor. Yang. Next time have Pei Yuan write it for you. His calligraphy is excellent. I nodded. The servant boy returned 5 days later, slinking back in defeat. Madam, the household funds are insufficient. We could only purchase half the medicinal herbs. I'm stunned. This is supposed to be a general's residence, yet it's this poor. Whatever, half the medicine is better than none. Let's use it for now. I found Pei Yuan sitting on the bed reading a book. The medicine is being brewed by the maids. Let me give you acupuncture first. Pei Yuan stiffened and looked at me suspiciously. Are you serious? I had already sterilized the needle and casually responded with a Take off your clothes, General Pei. Seeing me assume a professional stance, Pei Yuan reluctantly removed his upper garment. Take off your pants too. I showed no mercy. Pei Yuan wore an expression of humiliation. Don't you know what's good for you? I have no interest in you. Do you want your leg treated or not? If you do, then hurry up and take them off. Pei Yuan wore a coquettish expression of unyielding defiance. I recalled my wet nurse's words, if you can't stand it, just beat him up. I raised my hand threateningly. Take it off or not. If you don't, I'll spank you. Pei Yuan's pupils contracted slightly as he stared at me in shock, finally forcing out 4 words, shameless. Yet he still took it off. After years of practicing medicine, a man's body to me is just acupuncture points covered in flesh. I merely glanced at his abdominal muscles. 2 eyes. Alright, now it's 3 eyes. Xieyang, what exactly are you looking at? I'm looking at acupuncture points. My face didn't flush nor did my heart race, but Pei Yuan looked like ripe fruit ready to be plucked. I must say, it was quite tempting. As the saying goes, the economic base determines the superstructure. Without money, you're absolutely nowhere. But apart from knowing a bit of medicine, all I can do is write some novels. Uncertain about the state of novel development in the Great Jin dynasty, I sent someone to buy some storybooks. At the same time, the emperor had the Ministry of Works deliver the wheelchair they made for Pei Yuan. Pei Yuan cursed the damn emperor a few times before tossing the wheelchair into the woodshed. Just brimming with arrogance. How does it feel? Noticing Pei Yuan emerging from the room for the first time, I couldn't help asking curiously. Nothing special. Didn't feel a thing. Pei Yuan was in a bad mood and announced he was going back to his room to lie like a corpse. Come out and bask in the sun for a while. Keep me company while I read these storybooks. I called out to him. Pei Yuan rolled his eyes at me with an awful attitude. I'd rather die than accompany you, Xieyang. Flipping through the storybook, I quickly grasped the state of novel development in this era. Generally speaking, it remained rather crude, still stuck in the stage of scholars and beauties making perfect matches. I rubbed my hands together. countless inspirations flooding my mind. It's just my handwriting. I set my sights on Pei Yuan. No sooner said than done. I had servants bring paper and brushes, then sought out Pei Yuan. General Pei. Do you want the people of the northern frontier to have food to eat? General Pei. Do you want the soldiers of the northern garrison army to have food to eat? General Pei. Can you bear to see your newlywed wife go hungry? I fired off these 3 soul-searching questions in succession. The food at General Junbei's residence is far better than what I got at the Chancellor's manor. Pei Yuan's face darkened. What nonsense are you spouting now? I pulled out paper and brush. Shoving them into his hands, I can make the northern frontier rival Jiangnan as the nation's #1. Never underestimate the power of fiction. Remember, the prosperous must lead the less fortunate to prosperity. With the first bucket of gold secured, what's stopping us from getting the second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth? What are you doing? Pei Yuan felt a bit guilty. He suddenly realized that Xie Yang seemed somewhat unusual. With so many devious ideas, could he actually be a ghost? That is, writing story books. You must be out of your mind. Husband, I beg you. I acted cute. Xie Yang's brain short-circuited. The brush in his hand fell to the ground as he looked at me in disbelief, his thin lips parting slightly. Shameless. I know. Hurry up and start writing. I've already figured out what to write. Pei Yuan. Damn. Pei Yuan sits upright at his desk. Wake up to find the entire Great Jin's purchasing power has dropped 100-fold. A single tael of gold on my person could buy the entire northern prince's estate, I said with vivid exaggeration. Pei Yuan slammed the table and tried to stand up but didn't quite manage it. What nonsense! How could a mere tael of gold possibly purchase my northern prince's estate? Pei Yuan said indignantly. Are you going to write or not? I gave his but a squeeze. Pei Yuan instantly flushed crimson, glaring at me fiercely. Just wait till my leg heals, you'll pay for this. It was me who treated your leg. Pei Yuan hesitated to speak. Xie Yang, once I recover, I'll definitely take your damn life. Watching Pei Yuan finish writing, I continued. After finishing my meat bun, I pulled out a whopping 3 wen coins, and passers-by exclaimed, "What? He actually has 3 wen." The shopkeeper also gasped. My lord, a single meat bun costs only 0.03 wen. Pei Yuan, are you educated? No, I'm illiterate. Pei Yuan, while I was chattering away non-stop. Pei Yuan's pen moved swiftly across the paper, at one point rendered speechless by the bizarre twists in my story. We wrote like this until the dead of night, and the moment we put down our pens, Pei Yuan suddenly felt that being alive was rather wonderful after all. Are you sure anyone would buy this kind of storybook? I'm absolutely certain. We'll start printing tomorrow. Let's make 100 copies first. Once the 100 copies were printed, Pei Yuan locked himself in his room. Refusing to see anyone, a grand general like me, the northern garrison commander, actually wrote such unspeakable trash. He was frustrated, regretful, and utterly humiliated. Yet I was radiant with energy, hiring a few eloquent lads to set up a bookstall on the street. Don't miss out as you pass by. Freshly published stories by Mr. Bu Zheng. Bu Zheng, literally meaning not straight, implies crookedness. Both Pei Yuan and I have a Y in our names. Mr. Bu Zheng plays on this homophonic pun. Only 5 copies available on the first day, first come first served, just 1 copper coin per book. You can't go wrong with this deal. To open up the market, you first need to let readers know what you're selling. At just 1 copper coin, even passing children can afford it. What a bargain. Soon, a large crowd gathered around the bookstall. Wake up to find the entire Great Jin's purchasing power reduced 100-fold. What kind of storybook is this? So indecent and corrupting. Ha! A meat bun for just 0.03 wen. That cheap. Impossible. Mom, I want to eat meat buns. The scene quickly descended into chaos. Some bought them, while others didn't. Once 5 were sold, the stall was immediately packed up. Tomorrow we'll sell 10 copies, still priced at 1 penny each. Your patronage is most welcome. When I got home, Pei Yuan asked me how many books I had sold. 5. I held out my hand. Pei Yuan looked as if he had known all along. I knew it. Then I shoved paper and pen at him. Start writing your second book. Don't just sit idle. I'm a mighty general. These hands are meant for wielding swords and spears, for conquering battlefields, not gripping brush handles to write stories for you. No matter what you say this time, I'm not writing, alright? I let out a long sigh and turned to leave. Pei Yuan froze for a moment, instinctively calling out my name, Xie Yang. I turned back, wearing an expression that said I knew you'd call me. It's been 2 weeks since I first married into the Northern Garrison General's residence. I've been diligently applying herbal medicine, and the scars and acne on my face have faded significantly. Pei Yuan was momentarily stunned, then awkwardly averted his gaze. Who else would write this sort of thing for you besides me? I understood his implication. He wanted to write, begged to write, desired to write relentlessly, even if it meant writing himself to death. I am the third daughter of the Prime Minister's household in the Great Jin dynasty. Pei Yuan froze momentarily before turning his gaze toward me, his long lashes fluttering slightly under the candlelight, making him appear exceptionally handsome. His intense stare made me slightly uncomfortable. It was all Pei Yuan's fault for being so unfairly good-looking. I fell in love with a beggar. For him, I struck 3 palms with my father and moved into a cold kill. Pei Yuan nearly threw his brush away. When have I, Pei Yuan, ever treated you poorly? The general's residence may not compare to the Prime Minister's mansion, but it's hardly a hovel, is it? When did I say this was you? I didn't say it was me either. I'm the 7th child in my family. So you can relax. Who would have thought that even Pei Yuan could relate to Wang Baochuan digging wild vegetables after a little adaptation? What a sensitive skin. Every day I go hungry. My husband can't earn enough from begging, so he has to dig for wild vegetables in the mountains. As a result, I fell seriously ill, and my husband couldn't afford medicine. Pei Yuan, instead of living in the Prime Minister's mansion, you insist on staying in a cold cave dwelling, can't afford food. So you dig for wild vegetables, TSK, forcing hardship where there needn't be any. I burst out laughing. What are you laughing at? Laughing at you. Your little mouth keeps chattering, makes me want to kiss it. Pei Yuan, Xie Yang must be out of his mind. This wild vegetable digging story. I plan to divide it into 3 parts, beginning, middle, and end, with cliffhanger galore to keep readers thoroughly hooked. At night, I continued sleeping on the floor mat. Half dozing while brainstorming new plot twists, Xie Yang suddenly called out to me, "Hey, the floor's cold." He stumbled over his words for a long while before finally mumbling very softly, "Come up here to sleep." I froze for a moment, then looked up at Pei Yuan. Pei Yuan had his back to me, the tips of his ears exposed and burning red. "No," I said, "your leg isn't healed yet, and I toss and turn in my sleep. I'm afraid I might crush you." Pei Yuan pressed his lips together and spoke again after a long pause. "Suit yourself, sleep or don't sleep." When I didn't respond, he turned around angrily, only to find I'd already fallen asleep. Pei Yuan, what a sleeper. The writing of both books was complete. I instructed my servants to sell them as planned, increasing the price by 3 coins daily until capping at 20 coins. On other days, she would apply facial masks and perform acupuncture and cupping therapy on Pei Yuan. On the day the first book completely sold out, Bu Zheng, this pen name officially became famous. Have you read Bu Zheng's storybook? The later parts are so satisfying. Yes, if I could buy a meat bun for 0.03, my whole family could have a meal. Who needs meat buns? I'd definitely follow the protagonist's lead and take over the Northern Prince's mansion. Ha ha ha, Bu Zheng's new book is about to be released. Seems to be called Digging Wild Vegetables. I must buy it. I'm so sick of all those top scholar marries rich heiress stories flooding the market. 100 volumes are far from enough. I discussed with Pei Yuan. We need to distribute these storybooks across the entire country. Only then can we earn money to buy grain for the people. Pei Yuan never expected these storybooks could actually generate income, and coupled with his leg could actually bear a bit more weight now than before. As you wish, Pei Yuan said. I've been waiting for you to say that. I'm going to open a specialty store and gradually expand our works to the capital. No sooner said than done. I immediately arranged for someone to scout locations and had 1,000 copies printed. Before long, the first installment of Digging Wild Vegetables was met with enthusiastic welcome and fervent pursuit. The common people vied to read it, discussing Xie Baochuan wherever they went. Even the storytellers in tea houses were narrating tales from the script. Strike while the iron is hot, Pei Yuan, Let's quickly start writing the third book. Pei Yuan never expected that 2 scripts could create such a tremendous wave. Although your storybook is quite popular, venturing beyond the northern frontier, Pei Yuan probably didn't want to discourage me, so he didn't continue. Don't worry, General Pei. I shoved the brush into his hand. I've had plans all along. Pei Yuan and I worked hard for 2 months. We wrote group favorites, raising kids, sweet stories, BE, dramatic stories, NP stories, stepmother stories. As Pei Yuan continued writing, he found Xie Yang's story quite interesting. The specialty stores business quickly flourished. Though it remained largely confined to the northern frontier, Pei Yuan's legs gradually regained their strength, and my face had mostly healed as well. For the first time in 3 months, he stood on his own feet. After steadying himself on the ground, he looked at me excitedly. Xie Yang, my legs are healed. Xie Yang, I can stand up. He wrapped his arm around my waist, but his legs were still weak from recovery. Plop. We both fell to the ground together, with Pei Yuan cushioning my fall, my face buried in his chest. Did I hurt you? In my past life, I was perpetually single, and though I never stopped talking big, this was the first time I'd fallen into such a solid embrace. I pushed Pei Yuan away. My face uncharacteristically flushed. Your leg has just healed, you still need rehabilitation, and it's time to take action at the specialty store. With that, I fled in a panic. After 2 months of refinement, the systems within the specialty store have become highly sophisticated. Starting today, we're launching the new release, the beloved 3.5-year-old. The first 100 copies are limited editions, each including a portrait of the little darling. I'm at the northern headquarters, holding a meeting with all branch store owners. Did you understand? Understood. I curled a smile. After all, in modern times, I was a best-selling author. This was just the beginning. There would be all sorts of merchandise to follow, from replica sugar figurines and badges to blind boxes. Not afraid at all of not making the money back. Soon, news of the bookstore's new arrivals spread. The first 100 copies are limited edition. This little one is so adorable. Just like my daughter, it's just like my son. So adorable, I'll take one. But those willing to pay were still the locals from northern Xinjiang. There was nothing to fear. A good brand only needed the right opportunity to spread like wildfire across the land. That opportunity soon arrived. Perhaps feeling guilty toward Pei Yuan, the emperor arranged a study tour for the scions of prominent noble families. Thus, scions of noble families from all regions poured into the northern frontier. Where there are people, there is money to be made. Many merchants followed suit and came to the northern frontier. Have you heard of the beloved 3.5-year-old? I don't know. What is this thing? You're from the capital and you've never even heard of 3.5, TSK. Conversations like these happen every single moment. More and more people flooded into the specialty store to see what was going on. Once they saw it, they couldn't tear themselves away. Wake up to find the entire Great Jin's purchasing power reduced 100-fold. The Prime Minister's daughter marrying a beggar, a 3-year-old toddler reincarnated to save their entire family. After being reborn, I ended up with 5 husbands, just 3 months. And your northern frontier has already progressed this far. Outrageous. Women are born to serve their husbands. How can one have 5 husbands? Shameless. This is forbidden literature. I shall report this to the imperial court. On the first day entering the northern frontier, the voices of condemnation grew louder, yet I sat in my rocking chair, humming a tune, waiting for the situation to escalate. Aren't you worried? Pei Yuan has been showing up around me a lot lately, and here he is again, popping up out of nowhere. No rush, just wait and see. Pei Yuan thought about it and realized Xie Yang's story was both mysteriously intriguing and adorably charming. Those who initially grumbled and complained ended up loving it in the end. Isn't he just the same? Sure enough, before the second day even arrived, the attitude of the young master from the noble family had already changed. Wait, why did it stop halfway through? Digging for wild vegetables is driving me crazy. Why must the female lead insist on marrying a beggar? The little one is so adorable, but why only 5 chapters? Where's the rest? The rest hasn't been written yet. Hurry up and give me the next chapters. I was so anxious after reading yesterday that I couldn't sleep well all night. You dare release it when it's still just an embryo. Author, don't tire yourself out. But don't slack off either. Forget it. Had I known you'd only update these 2 chapters today, I wouldn't have come. I've been putting off updating. Pei Yuan was getting somewhat anxious. So many people are urging for updates. Aren't you going to release the 2nd volume? They had clearly finished writing it long ago. Do you want to make money? I posed a soul-searching question. I do. Then we wait. After waiting all night, someone unexpectedly came knocking the next day. Pei Yuan refused to see them, using his unhealed leg injury as an excuse. I will receive everyone personally. 2.5 months have passed, and my face has fully recovered. I dare say I'm quite a beauty now. News from the northern frontier isn't like in the capital. They neither know I'm out of favor nor care about my appearance. But these young masters from the capital are different. They were all utterly astonished by my appearance. So the Prime Minister's 7th daughter has grown into such a beauty. 7th Miss. I'm willing to offer 100 taels of gold for an update. 7th Miss. I'll give 200 taels of gold. I'll pay 300 taels. I smiled. Thank you all for your kindness. First, I am now Pei Yuan's wife, so you may address me as Madame Xie. Secondly, I'll be releasing a patronage ranking today. The top 10 patrons can get early access to updates, exclusive merchandise, and a special edition side story collection. Soon, someone couldn't wait any longer. Where can I leave a tip? At the Northern Frontier Specialty Store. That same day, the Northern Frontier Prince's residence received a tip 10,000 taels of gold. The storybook's marketing efforts continued, and its earnings soared accordingly. Pei Yuan ordered his subordinates to purchase a large quantity of grain and seeds, distributing them to every household. In addition, there were drought subsidies, resettlement allowances, and so on. The military pay of the Northern Garrison Army was multiplied several times over. Weapons were replaced, and new war horses and chariots were acquired. The promise I made over 2 months ago became reality today. Xie Yang. Pei Yuan looked at me and called softly. I was sitting under the willow tree, enjoying my novel, and turned my head upon hearing him. What? Pei Yuan gazed at me, his dark eyes exceptionally bright. I'm sorry, and thank you. That day, the Prime Minister's residence issued invitations for a flower viewing gathering, and the Northern Garrison General's household was naturally included. Pei Yuan, I've wronged you too much. On our wedding day, I couldn't welcome you through the door, nor did we perform the 3 bows together, and I even made you sleep on the floor. I don't care. I truly didn't care. Pei Yuan suddenly reddened his eyes as he looked at me. Xie Yang, my breath hitched. Something didn't feel quite right. For example, Pei Yuan's attitude toward me seemed to have undergone a dramatic change without me even noticing. He knelt on one knee, holding my hand and pressing it against his face. Before, I suspected you were a scheme by Prime Minister Xie to deal with me. I doubted you, resented you, hurt you. He lowered his eyes. I've done too many things wrong by you. I'm willing to spend the rest of my life making amends. Xie Yang. He had clearly called my name many times before, but now I suddenly felt my heart quicken. He looked up at me. I am a military general, not very good at sweet talk, but what I want to say is, I admire your intellect, your character, your whimsical charm. I don't know when it happened, but you've become irreplaceable to me. Xie Yang, I love you. I seemed to hear the deafening thunder of my own heartbeat. I couldn't quite bring myself to meet Pei Yuan's gaze, afraid I'd lose myself completely in those depths, from beginning to end. I never thought of having any emotional entanglement with him. I don't belong to this world. I'm afraid I might leave one day. On the day of the flower viewing banquet, Pei Yuan rode his horse and brought me back to the Prime Minister's residence. I heard Xie Yang is returning today. I wonder if her face is still as hideous. According to young Master Wang, our 7th sister is as beautiful as a flower. Perhaps Xie Yang found herself a substitute from somewhere. What a pity for General Zhenbei, the dashing young commander with a crippled leg, incapable of marital duties, forced to marry trash like 7th sister. General of the Northern Garrison has arrived. The servant's shout silenced everyone instantly, all eyes converging on the entrance of the ministerial residence. A magnificent steed came to a halt, Pei Yuan gripping the reins, his brows and eyes brimming with youthful vigor. And there I sat before him, the wind tousling my stray lock.
Townsfolk wore bright smiles on their faces, greeting both Pei Yuan and me warmly when they saw us. Greetings, General. Greetings, General's lady. I responded with a smile. Hello to you all, Tilda. Snowflakes fell thick and fast, settling on the strands of hair belonging to both Pei Yuan and me. Pei Yuan gradually slowed his steps, turning to look at me with gentle, sincere eyes. If we can share this snowfall today, then this lifetime. He tightened his grip on my hand, enunciating each word deliberately, together, until our hair turns white. Unbeknownst to me, my eyes had welled up. I held him tightly. My heart ached as if something had seized it. Pei Yuan, I'm here. I stifled the sob in my throat, burying my face in his chest. The I'm sorry on the tip of my tongue just wouldn't come out. At the start of the year, spring rains fell endlessly. 3 years of drought welcomed their first spring rain. This year is bound to be a thriving and prosperous one. The economy in the northern frontier has begun to flourish, especially in the cultural sector, taking advantage of the momentum. Pei Yuan also initiated numerous entertainment activities. Yang, look, I bought some fabric at the market. I'll have the tailor make you a few outfits later. Also, this is the moon-white flowing gauze skirt just sent from the South Sea. The color suits you. After all, Pei Yuan is a great general. Yet lately he's been bringing me these trinkets every day. Pei Yuan, I want to see you perform swordplay. Resting my chin in my hand, I gazed at him. His eyes lit up. This was his forte. Fetching his sword, Pei Yuan stood tall and straight, his swordplay flowing like a swimming dragon, graceful as startled swan. I personally crafted a sword tassel and tied it onto Pei Yuan's sword together with him. Pei Yuan's gaze lingered on me, unwilling to look away even for a moment. Yang, can you tell me why you chose the pen name Crooked? I raised my hand and gently pressed it against his lips, my eyes curving into a beautiful smile. It's a secret. We held our wedding ceremony again, with bridal processions stretching for miles, celebrated throughout the northern frontier. He personally helped me dismount, and we performed the wedding ceremony. On our wedding night, he lifted my bridal veil and wrapped his large hand around my waist. The moment our eyes met, I felt like I was melting from the heat. Pei Yuan held me in his arms, kissing my forehead tenderly again and again. Xieyang, I really like you. Pei Yuan never hid his affection. The second wife of my father, sister of the cavalry general. Then I pressed against the tip of his nose, whispering softly, I like you too, Pei Yuan. Opening my eyes again and seeing the computer screen glowing faintly before me, my heart skipped a beat. I'm back, of all times to return. Why now? A tsunami of emotions crashed over me, and my tears fell uncontrollably. Pei Yuan, I curled up in the chair, my heart aching as if sliced by knives. I'm sorry, Pei Yuan, I'm so sorry. Xieyang had stopped breathing. Pei Yuan marched northward as if possessed, leading his army 200 li into battle. The emperor feared him, calling him a wolf with ambitions, accusing him of plotting treason. Pei Yuan turned his forces back to the capital, seized the Son of Heaven with his northern garrison army, and razed the chancellor's residence. He installed the late emperor's second son on the throne and appointed a new commander for the northern garrison army. The first year of Heizi, Pei Yuan committed suicide by cutting his own throat beneath the willow tree where Xieyang often lingered. My life goes on. That dream felt too real. I couldn't break free for a long time, even developing severe depression, and was resuscitated after multiple suicide attempts. The name Pei Yuan frequently appeared in my dreams, and I would wake up each time with tears streaming down my face. I wrote the story into a book, with only myself as the reader. Year after year passed by. I often wonder if perhaps around the next corner, I might encounter again that spirited young man.